So for me, I've chosen my problem that I'm working on this year is I have poor cardio. That's the thing that I think is holding me back. And the problem is not a problem when I consistently work on it. And the problem gets worse when I eat, sleep, or train poorly. So something that I thought was interesting is I noticed that consistency is kind of something that's going to help me go forward. So after that, I take a little Post-it note and I want to figure out how I can condense this information down into something that fits on a Post-it note. And they kind of need to be this size because we're going to be putting them onto the grid. So we get a one quick look. So my problem is cardio. The problem isn't a problem when I'm consistent, and the problem is worse if I eat, sleep, or train poor. So I already have great information. I could already start tackling this problem. I'm going to take that off of my more expanded version, set that aside, and here we go. I'm starting to fill out my grid. So now I know what my problem is. I know what I need to do if I don't want the problem to be a problem as much, and I know what's kind of keeping me held back a little bit. So the next thing is looking at when has the problem been a problem, or has this problem been a problem in the past? So the first question is that, has the problem been a problem in the past? And yes, it has for me. So when I finished playing football, I found it really, really hard to motivate myself to want to do cardio. I didn't have a lot of reasons to do it, and I didn't want to do it at all. The second question in that area is what's worked to get me out of that problem. So when I recognized that I wasn't doing a lot of cardio, I started making small commitments, like 10 minutes every day. And that small investment was easy enough to do, and it kept me consistent, which is something that we talked about here. So the thing, though, that's made it worse in the past is if I've skipped 1 or 2 days, or I've missed 2 or 3 days in a row. So inconsistency ends up being like my Achilles heel. So I did the same thing, condensed this down into a small Post-it note. Oh, it's just asking like, when was this a problem in the past after playing career, 10-minute daily commitments, and then missing 2 to 3 days in a row. And what's great about this is because I have to go through the process of writing it out in long form and then condensing it down into short form, I'm reminding myself twice, and then I'm putting it on the sheet. So what's cool about now on the sheet is I have a little bit of a timeline. I have what my problem is, when my problem used to be a problem, and what were some of the things that worked and some of the things that hurt me. And so I can now start paralleling certain things. Like when I did 10-minute commitments daily, I actually was consistent. When I missed 2 or 3 days in a row, it's probably because I was eating, sleeping, or training poor, and so I didn't have like the capacity or the energy to be able to be consistent. So now I'm starting to learn some things about myself. So then we take a look at the next thing, which is some of the growth steps in the past. What steps have helped me to grow? And so the first question in that is, how are you better off than when the problem started? And so the way that I've grown is I've become more aware that the problem is a problem. I don't like cardio typically, and I know the other way that I've grown is like, because I don't like cardio, I figured out what types of cardio I actually do like. And then the second question is, how did I manage that? How did I figure this stuff out? So how did I grow that way? And the answer is simple. I just tried a lot of different things. I tried a lot of things and I found out what I liked. And C is if I were to reverse engineer that growth process, what would that look like? So I said, if I try new things, I might have more options to keep me interested. So this is now giving me ammunition for maybe what I can do going forward. Maybe right now cardio is a problem for me because it's gone stale. There's not a lot of options that get me excited. So if I try more things, maybe that'll help. So I condense that down again, and now I fill in this area here. So now I have a small idea of different steps that would take for me to grow, stuff that's worked in the past, and maybe stuff that I can do in the future. So I'm gonna set that aside. We're gonna look at how my character's grown. So these questions are, how have you seen yourself grow? And so for me, I've seen myself become more disciplined or focused or committed. And then it asks, what else? Well, I've seen that I learned how to push myself or challenge myself. And then it asks again, what else? Or is there anything more? And then I realized, yeah, there is. I care about my health in the long term. So my growth in character has made me more disciplined, self-motivated, and more attentive to my self-care. So we throw that in as well. This is now all of my history regarding the problem. I have the problem as it is. I have what the problem used to be like and some of the things that worked and didn't work. I have ways or steps that I've taken to grow and improve so that I don't have as much an issue with the problem. And I've also got a list of things that I actually have in the arsenal. These are part of my toolkit because I've gone through the process in the past. I am disciplined. I am self-motivated. I do care about myself. And so it's good to remind yourself of these things as well, because this becomes the framework for justifying why you want to take care of the problem in the first place. Because if you don't take care of the problem, it's saying that you're not the disciplined person that you grew yourself into becoming, and maybe you're not self-motivated, and maybe you don't care about yourself. But that's just not true. You already know. Your history says you've earned this. I am a disciplined person. I am self-motivated. I do care about myself. And so, yeah, I should take care of this problem. So we're going to move that aside, and now we're going to take a look at actually moving forward from the problem. So this is our history, this is our future, this is our present. And if I want to do something about where I'm at, I need to improve personally. So these are the character elements that I'm going to use to help me to move personally forward. But I need to take a look at, like, what is the problem at right now? So we got if we want to improve, we have to know kind of where we're at. Where's point A if we want to get to point B? So the first question is just asking me to scale the problem on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being it's the worst it's ever been, 10 being it's not a problem. And so for me, the problem is at about a 6. It's not the worst it's ever been. It could be a bit better. I do a little bit of cardio right now, and that's kind of the second question, which is just asking why I justify it. So why not a 5 out of 10? Well, I do cardio once or twice a week, and sometimes more. So it's not that I'm not doing it, it's just that I'm not doing it at the consistency that I would like. And so the next question is, if I wanted to move from a 6 to a 7, how can I do that? Like, what would it take for me to move from a 6 to a 7? So I need to actually plan 10 minutes into my warm-ups. I think warm-ups are an easy area for me to do that because I'm gonna do a warm-up for my workouts anyway. I work out every day in the weight room, I just don't do cardio. So if I added cardio for 10 minutes into my warm-ups, that might be an easy way for me to sort of sneak it in. And then the last question is, how would I know that I had improved? Like, how do I know that I'm moving up, that this is becoming something that I actually love? And I wrote down, it becomes something I crave doing more than weights alone. So I would start to notice a change in my desire. So it's not just discipline or self-motivation or self-care, but my passion or my desire about it will help me pull me forward. And I've underlined some things here, like I need to be better at planning, and this needs to be something that I like. So I condensed that down again into my post-it note. We won't go over it too much, but you can see that it's just something a little bit simplified. And I put it here. So now I have an idea of what it would take for me to go from a 6 out of 10, why I think that I'm already doing okay, what I can do to move forward a little bit, and what will it look like if I actually improve. So this is great. I am now going to move on. I should just say at this point though, when we were doing the framework, I didn't mention this and I just noticed, if I were to continue to just improve, like I just planned it into my warm-up and I just lean into that, I have a bunch of unused potential. So I'm making improvements, but it's not becoming something that's allowing me to make progress towards this ultimate problem, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I just wanted to point that out. The next thing is looking at my area of progress. So that question asks, if I were to make steady improvements, so if I were to do these things, what does that look like 1 week from now? So next week, what would I be able to say my improvement allowed me to do? Well, I'm planning to do it in all of my warm-ups, but I would say that like a good target hit just this week would be able to say I did at least 3 to 4 sessions of cardio this week. And then the second question is, what would it look like a month from now? And so a month from now, I actually have a set schedule for cardio that I enjoy. So I've tried a lot of different things, and now every Monday I know I'm playing pickleball, or I'm playing pickup basketball, or I'm on the bike, or I'm doing boxing or something like that. So it might be a different thing every single day just to keep it interesting for me, but in a month, I should have a set schedule for the different types of cardio that I like to do. Letter C is a few months from now, what would that look like? In a few months, I hope I'm enjoying it so much that I'm doing more than just 10 minutes a day. So I want to move from 10 to 20 minutes. And then what would this look like to arrive? Like if I've arrived at my goal of getting away from this problem, What does that look like? And it becomes an I get to instead of I have to. So that would be a sort of change in mindset. I would know I've arrived there. Again, just condense that down. And I'm gonna put that down here. Now, if I did a lot of these action steps, but I didn't get to a point where I'm like craving it or it's something where I actually desire, so I am doing it at least 3 to 4 times a week, or I have a schedule, or I've improved a little bit, but it still gets to a point where I'm not like consistent and I'm not enjoying it, and it's not becoming something that I'm actually like improving in this way. This is just growthless action. So I'm just doing a lot of things. I'm just pushing myself to get into rituals, but I'm not making a character change. I'm just tackling tasks, and that's never gonna be sustainable. So it's good to remind myself that this is not just a set of tasks. I wanna get to a point where I actually really enjoy it. Okay, so now I have a fairly good framework, and this is probably my favorite point in the grid is when we start looking at what happens if I don't. What happens if I don't? This makes the whole thing real. If I just did this bit here, everything that's moving up and to the right, I might make progress, but by framing out like what happens if I end up becoming complacent or I suffer from mediocrity with this process, these things feel scary to me. And that's a really good motivator for me because I don't want to move away from where I want to go. I want to get moving towards something that's a bit more meaningful and purposeful. So this is kind of like, it's like almost a Christmas carol. It's you're visiting yourself with like the ghost of what could happen. So in this one, it's asking what happens if you go forward without improving or growing. And so you start to write that out. So I said I'd become frustrated with my health. I'd feel lethargic and I wouldn't be able to do as much. And the second question is what happens if you go forward and things get worse? Like what happens if you continue to make progress in life, but you don't make the improvements that you need to make? Well, maybe I'd gain bad weight, or I'd have health problems, or I'd give up on myself. And that's kind of scary to think about. It's like getting to a point where it's so hopeless that you give up on yourself. So that's what I wrote down. Frustration, lethargy, feeling limited, unhealthy, and hopeless. That's what happens if I don't move up and to the right. The next one is if I get so focused on just improving but not moving forward, then I'm gonna stagnate. So if I don't actually have something that actually moves me in this direction on the sheet, and I'm only going in this direction, or I'm actually moving in that direction a little bit, I'm gonna stagnate and I'm gonna leave my dreams behind a little bit. So the first question in this is, imagine you get too focused on being good enough before getting started. What's the minimum amount of personal readiness you need to take the first step? So like the very minimum I need to actually move in this direction is I can plan a schedule for this week and every Sunday. So every Sunday for each week, I can do that. That's one commitment every week that I need to do. It's a very, very minimum thing that I could do just to start tipping in this direction, so I'm not just going in this direction. And the second question is, what happens if I grow but I don't apply myself to move forward? And the truth is, I know I'm going to regress. Like if I start to do little bits or I start to make little improvements, but I don't actually make progress, I am going to give up. I'm going to settle, I'll be frustrated, and you know what? I'm gonna end up in the exact same place I am right now. And it's just gonna be weeks or months down the road. And all that time's gonna be wasted, and I'm gonna have to go through this process again. And I don't like to waste my own time. So I condense this down into another little Post-it note, and that's a good reminder for myself. I don't wanna waste my own time. And the only thing that I need to do to sort of get this thing moving is I need to make a plan this week. So you can bet what I'm gonna do as soon as we're done filming.